Either way, we're moving on to now our fifth match, which is Kolento taking on Viper in this one. And a very crucial match for Viper, as Swids has now picked up a match win, and so he has separated himself from that bottom group that was tied, fighting against that relegation spot that's there. For Viper, this is a must-win scenario, I think. He got a win yesterday for it, but he wants to keep separating himself from that bottom spot. If he wins all the rest of his matches, there is still a world where his playoff hopes are alive.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday he had a very stressful series, I would say, versus Hunter Ace. I don't think Kolento will be any easier.
No, I certainly don't think so. You can see the picks and bans down below. That Divine Shield around a class means it was protected and not eligible for a ban afterwards. So Kolento, again, has protected his Hunter. As a result, his Priest was banned away. For Viper, he has protected his Druid, and he has had his Priest banned away as a result of it. So we can take a look at the Highlander Hunter deck that's from Kolento and get a glimpse of exactly what's in here. He has built it a little bit differently than other players I've seen, and I've liked the inclusions he's had so far. I think the biggest standout for me is Houndmaster and how that interacts with Desert Spear.
Yeah, I think Desert Spear by itself has seemed pretty lackluster in Highlander Hunter, I would say, but I do think that Houndmaster makes it quite a nice addition. Just having a 3/3 rush lets you value trade, especially against Priests. Having a 3/3 kills pretty much every single thing that they want to develop in the early game.
I think it makes a ton of sense. It's a big thing to do by having a weapon equipped. Really interesting. So we're rolling into game number one. Viper's going to be on Quest Druid, and Kolento is going to be on Holy Wrath Paladin. And for Viper, I do think that his deck build is perhaps a detriment to him in this one. He has included the full Monty where his threats are concerned. At least the Enlightened, and Chef Nomi, and Cenarius, and King Ferris.
At the same time, he does have double Ferocious Howl, which I would say is a big check mark in terms of whether you want to be favorable versus Holy Wrath Paladin or not.
Yeah.
Having only one is going to lead you with very awkward hands where you need to cycle through your deck, but using that Ferocious Howl means no more armor gain. And no more armor gain means you're going to die to 225 damage Holy Wraths.
Yeah, that's not the plan you want to happen.
I think from Kolento's side in the mulligan phase, looking specifically for Crystology.
I would say so. Crystology, I think, is like pretty much the prime card that's in the matchup.
1 mana draw 2 is good in any deck ever in Hearthstone.
Is it?
Believe it or not.
So in the alpha stage, there was a rogue card called Adrenaline Rush, and it said draw card, combo, draw 2 cards.
And it costed 1 mana, correct?
They had to get rid of it.
That's broken.
Crystology, I think, being limited specifically to one-attack minions is both a benefit and a detriment to the card, where you're filtering out specific cards from your deck. So for Paladin, a lot of times it's a benefit because you're just trying to get through the deck. So drawing one-attack things that draw extra cards is like, that's kind of the goal.
At the same time, at a certain point, you get all of your one-attack minions, and then Crystology becomes an absolutely dead card.
A double-edged sword.
Yeah. One edge is much sharper than the other.
Oh, yeah.
The drawing 2 cards aspect of it that's a good weapon.
I like Kolento and the Tempo Wild Pyromancer. Yep, Saddle's talked a lot about this card and him playing Holy Wrath Paladin. And he said one of the things that he was constantly doing was overvaluing a Wild Pyromancer in my hand. And I remember back at one point, that was something I always did. I was like, I wanted the security of having a Wild Pyro in my hand. When I just started tempoing him out, it started working a lot better. I think that's a 2-part concept. Number 1, you're getting a little bit more damage on average. And then number 2, in this particular expansion, I do think it's important to have checks to minions on board. Like, I'm thinking Priest, obviously, it's a big one, and for Druid, specifically Crystal Merchant.
It kind of comes down to how Hearthstone operates at a fundamental level, which is a little bit of tempo now is worth a lot of tempo later. Like, the earlier you do stuff, way better it gets.
So Viper, recognizing that, is going to develop a 3-2, try to fight off against this Wild Pyromancer, and then get a Crystal Merchant down. So for Kolento, do you run it back? Or do you say, you know what, Acolyte does a pretty good job against Crystal Merchant?
Acolyte does a pretty good job in general, right? You dodge the Oasis Searcher?
Just do both. Can't do both.
1 mana Wild
Pyromancer.
Pyromancer.
Specifically to try to find Crystology?
I don't know. It would have been good.
It would have been insane. That is That is a bit unique to me.
He might say that Wrath is just a little bit too scary, but at the same time, do you think Viper would have just Wrath instead of... I don't know. That's a bit too hypothetical.
I don't know. I mean, that could be... I think that could very well be the case. Is thinking about, I need this to draw 2 cards. I need a lot more than I need a coin. In the face of Wrath, I only draw 1. I don't want that.
Makes sense. You get a guaranteed draw from your coin. Coin is important in setting up hands, but card draw is also very important.
It is a bit strange to me. And I see where Kolento's coming from. It does make some sense, and it kind of opens my eyes into something I never really thought about in the matchup before, which is, if I'm unfavored, what can I do to make that better? Take risks.
Exactly.
That risk cost a coin. It hurts.
Sometimes. Yeah.
He draws a Crystology there, like Kolento, like, suddenly rockets off to the moon with how much card draw he'll have.
He's set for the rest of the game.
That is seriously, like, I think one of the most brilliant risks that perhaps I have seen in a while. Because what does it really cost you?
Just a coin. That's nothing.
Half the games I play, I don't have a coin.
Behold, jewels of the sun.
It's pointless. Viper, I just want to point out Viper doing a pretty heads-up thing here, which is that Kolento cannot trade in his Wild Pyromancer and also get the benefit off of it, except with exactly Flash of Light. He would have to Flash of Light his Wild Pyromancer and then trade to kill it. So for all intents and purposes, if Flash of Light isn't in Kolento's hand,
then it's got to be Hammer of Wrath.
It's Hammer of Wrath. That's a good turn for Viper, I would say.
I think it's a good turn for Kolento. Draw a card, kill a Crystal Merchant.
I think Viper is happy to see that.
I agree. I think he's pretty happy to see it.
We talk about that a lot, where both players are pretty happy with how the game's going.
That's the most interesting game to me. Because you know what that means? It means that one of them is very, very wrong.
Or the game just hasn't been decided yet.
Nah. It means one of them's very wrong. I'm sticking to my original statement.
What to do?
I'm very happy right now.
Me too.
You're very wrong.
We're not playing.
No one told you?
I like look down. I'm like, oh! I'm in a Grandmasters match.
And you forgot your pants at home. Nightmare.
Watch just standard practice for me.
I mean, honestly,
Think I
GM
wear
is just
pants under the desk.
It's just waist up. So you do you, Admirable. Thanks.
For no one.
I do not hold judgments to anyone's lifestyle.
Oh, we talked about this. You haven't used versatiles early.
I do have a question mark. I see why. You were desperately looking for Nourish. I think with 2 Surgers in hand, I would have opted to hold. But Kolento stumbles. There are no cards to draw this turn.
This is a disgusting turn from Kolento, and not in a good way.
Oh, the literal disgusting.
Yeah, I am filled with disgust at having to be Kolento in this spot, and
I mean, honestly, this is just more of a sign that his coin play was so brilliant. Like, he needed to find card draw.
Yeah.
With drawing an extra card, he failed to do it.
sometimes it doesn't pay off.
That's so smart.
Maybe he's smart enough to rip a 1 in 18 here for the 20
Oh,
damage.
let's
No?
hang on. Let's
Okay.
let's not throw the match.
You know, I hear this a lot, where people say playing the first Holy Wrath is considerable to throwing the match, and I don't really buy it.
Depends on the matchup, right?
I think even against Druids, sometimes you just have to use a Holy Wrath to
I'm going to be
cycle
honest.
through your deck.
I think if you're going to Holy Wrath here for 25 and your opponent has a hidden Oasis, you go, dang it. And then you probably just lose.
Well, you're hitting off armor anyways. I mean, it's not... I would have dealt 5. That's great.
Something that's going to happen in every single Paladin game, unless you have built your deck with less tools in mind, is you will have a turn where you stumble. And that turn can come early, it can come in the middle, it can come in the late. Whenever it happens, you need to be prepared for it. And so watching a player demonstrate what they do through that moment, I think is truly the mark of understanding how this deck works.
Yeah, Consecrate for 2 damage. Awful play in terms of Hearthstone, the best thing Kolento had.
Yeah, I think that using the second Wild Pyro could have easily backfired. I think that using Crystalsmith Kangor in a spot where he knows he's going to end up getting pressured could have backfired. I think that Viper drawing Nourish on this turn because he cast the Ferocious Howl has not backfired.
Not at all.
I think you're seeing a lot of plays that are made in this game that the players are not happy to be making, but you see why they do.
That being said, is Nourish the play here? It does get you to the King Feoris turn next turn, gets you closer to Floop.
I think the Feoris is the reason why.
Also activates a Nubisat. The more I think about it.
Yeah, Nourish.
Yeah, Nourish.
You pretty much just cast the Nourish. Do you do anything else?
A Nubisath is not going to force out a removal tool from Kolento, I don't.
It's kind of why I'm looking at the Zephyrus.
I wonder.
You think if you play a Nubisath and Zephyrus, you can just get enough and play? At that point, you're kind of threatening Cenarius, right?
Ooh.
Just cycle.
Drawing is important. It's very important.
For both players, honestly.
Wow. I cannot believe how important each card draw has been in this game. Like the aggressive cycling is such a big difference
Viper's
so far.
a smarty pants, man.
They're both smarty pantses, man.
Viper's, well, yes, but Viper specifically is a smarty pants.
He's looking like the smartier, pantsier of the two because he's getting payoffs on his draws right now.
Yeah, and Kolento isn't, even though they're both doing very high-level stuff.
Yeah, so I'm kind of curious to see, like, if Kolento picks up a crucial draw, you can literally go back and trace that down to that
the
coin.
Acolyte,
Yeah, it's so weird.
It's not coming yet. Both Christologies are still in his deck. Both Novice Engineers are still in his deck. Both, a lot of cards are still in his deck.
This is one of the most unusual games I have seen in a long time, and I am loving it.
Well, Kolento just, like, he did everything he could to cycle through. He's just left with, like, the most awkward hand. He's left with all the combo pieces. Double Baleful, double Holy Wrath.
Yeah, that 2-pair is not so good right now.
No, it is not.
You got to get all the way to the end.
Our power.
This will prompt an AoE from Kolento, very likely. I think that's just too much damage. Oh my goodness.
Ugh.
So what well, hang on a second now. How much damage loaded? 5, 8, 12, 16, 17, 18. You know what? We've drawn all the combo pieces. Viper's at 26. I just drew an Elven Archer. The world's spelling out something for me here.
Oh, you'd look so cool if the next card. You'd look so cool. You'd set it up, too. You'd play both Consecrates. Oh, man. You'd look so cool.
Please don't draw Shirvala next. I will forever remember that. The qualities, seriously, it's pretty sick. Viper now responding with Oasis Surger, so the wave of pressure for Kolento is back.
Just use your Starfall. Protect your minions. Makes sense.
In this matchup, you will spend almost anything you can to kill a Crystalsmith Kangor. You're like, do not give them 4 extra health.
Yeah, I mean, your Starfall isn't doing anything.
Oh my! No way. Gallon. I told you the world was spelling it out for me.
Admirable.
This is the caster thing?
I think we just better pack it up.
I'm upset.
I don't know what else to say.
The world was spelling it out. I don't know what it was. It was something in my bones, Gallon. I'm telling you. Something deep down inside was telling me.
You know what? Kolento massively screwed up this game.
He
You know why? Because he coined out the Acolyte, and he drew an extra card, which means this Shirvala would be on the top of his deck right now. So
No. Opposite. He messed up last turn is what it was. Not on the Acolyte. Because in that sarcastic tone, he drew the Elven Archer. He double consecrated nothing. He set it up perfectly.
That's fair. He would have drawn the Elven Archer this turn.
It was a perfect setup.
Steals 2.
Quickly.
Oh, man.
Reporting for duty.
Admiral just has a look of disgust on his face.
Well, it's not his fault. It's just the stars would have aligned.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
It's not Kolento's fault. It's not a criticism.
It's not Kolento's fault. I'd say we would all been there, but
Just telling you, I was feeling it that time.
yeah.
I don't know if I've ever called for a Holy Wrath, like ever, on cast.
Because it's a 1 in 15.
It's just what.
Why would you?
There's like never a reason to do it. I think Kolento's hand was so miserable that you're like, maybe?
It was like a 1%er. Like where...
If I didn't draw the Elven Archer, not even close. I would not have considered it at all.
Sure.
But the fact that I have that 26th, just in case, because something had to give. His hand has been miserable since that Acolyte.
The beauty of results-oriented gameplay. But to be fair, you didn't say if he had Holy Wrath, he would deal 25. You said if he Holy Wraths right now, he'll deal 25. That's the beauty of it. It's not hindsight. It was foresight. Prophetic.
Precognition.
Prophetic.
Want to remind everyone that you can clip any moment from any of Grandmasters weeks, and if you have the most viewed clip that's out there, you can win 20 Saviors of Uldum packs. You can find more information at HS Esports on Twitter. There's also a command in the chat for it.
Let's stash that away.
So we going again?
Let's stash that away.
No way.
Oh. To be fair. He set up for a 2 in 13 instead of a 1 in 15. Strictly mathematically, Kolento has been doing everything correct.
He really has.
It's not at all that Kolento has been messing up.
He really has. Do you like how I knew he was going to go for it, so I set up that Twitch clip thing right there, so that way if it did happen,
Yeah, I was smart.
It's like I do this for a living. I'm just stealing all of Soddle's lines this one today, too. I don't even know what's going. It's just kind of lining up.
It's going
We've cast
great.
so much together over the last, like, 8 weeks that just...
You get habits from talking to other people for a while.
Seriously. I feel like a yin and yang thing between him and I.
Like when I talk to Zalay, who is an American Grandmaster, or Ike, who is a friend of ours that is also a Hearthstone player, made it to Worlds,
Yeah,
for
World
example.
Championship competitor last year.
They have a lot of key phrases that I've picked up over the years.
Simplifying.
What
Yeah.
to do?
What immediately sticks out to me this turn is Starfall. It just looks about as good as a Star. You Starfall the Crystal Smith Kangor in this matchup. Like, you're going to take this
Yeah,
one.
you're not getting better than this one. I think Viper's thinking about the rest of the game, right?
Absolutely.
It's solvable for him at this point. And so it's also unfamiliar territory at this point. So if that's the case, take your time. Figure it out. Map it out. Do not accept less than 100% because he has that in the bag. I believe.
He has 100% here. The only thing I can consider is Zephyrus being like an immediate threat, and that is checked right now.
Exactly. It's just for Viper, I purely believe that this spot is about whether or not he can navigate this
It was
properly.
the next card.
Like for Kolento, is just this game went abysmally.
This is
It did
brutal.
not pan out. I think his decisions have been on point. I think Viper's have been on point. The cycling looked strange to me early on, but he got the Nourish payoff, and you could see how vital that
Well-
card was.
Wait a second.
I'm pretty sure it's just checked. Like it's only 7, and you have a Cenarius in hand.
If there's a draw where Kolento would win, it would be with double Shirvala this turn exactly.
It would be like you True Silver, you
It's
clear off.
probably 0%.
You clear off the 6/6, you clear off a 5/5, you clear off the other one, and you hope they stick.
This is the scenario where Kolento could find a win. Very unlikely, could happen.
This is the only way you find the way. Take that way.
Reporting for duty.
Okay, Zephyrus is now active.
Yeah.
Zephyrus
So-
will end the game immediately. From Viper's side, it might just be hoping that you...
Oh, this is like, what am I missing?
Yeah.
Like seriously, and I'm not. It's just the timing is so weird too. Because yesterday when he had that mage game, and he found the line that improved his percent chance outside of the brawl rather than taking the 60% on brawl, and he just forgot the weapons project.
Yeah. Okay.
Just
Gotta
make sure
twist
you're not
together.
missing stuff.
It's fine.
Keep it clean. This is Viper 101. Stay comfortable. Take your time. This is what you do. Stay inside that zone.
Yeah.
Now is not the time to have anything go wrong.
Nothing's going wrong.
Well, depends on who you are. But speaking from Viper's perspective,
Nothing's going wrong.
yeah, not anymore.
Now, the last hope for Kolento is something like Novice Engineer into a Zephyrus where you can get an Edwin maybe as an 8/8. Even then, you're just so far behind, and Viper will be able to answer that. You need to set up a world where you can like make a huge Edwin off of Zephyrus. Have that connect twice.
Novice into Zephyrus into Elven Archer into
Already played a Novice's game from Kolento's side, I believe.
Novice into
It's not Crystology.
Flashlight. Is there one of those left?
That could work.
Novice into Flashlight
Novice
into
into Flashlight.
Zephyrus into I don't know how many cards are left and what was missing.
Crystology is not it.
I'll tell you one thing, Kolento's no quitter. So if you see that happen,
I honestly think that's what he's going to go for. He's going to try to hope for a... I think he's found it out.
he's not a quitter.
He knows that Zephyrus into a... Well,
It's a strange game.
every time I say something, it feels like Viper just gets like another huge nail in the coffin.
Just that's like
At least the Enlightened. Why not?
it's the deck like in general against Holy Wrath Paladin. Like
I like what Viper did here. He decided to cast Worthy Expedition after Elise. In a bad spot, I think you should Worthy Expedition first because it makes the high roll more consistent. In a good spot, you just want options. Get 2 Worthy Expeditions. Small thing. Still important, I think. Another thing about this, too, is just fatigue. Do you think Kolento forcing Viper through this might get an extra edge out if the series goes on for a while?
oh, you mean literal fatigue?
Literal fatigue.
Oh.
Sorry about that. Mental fatigue.
I mean, theoretically, yes. I will say I think that Viper is one of the stronger players when it comes to that aspect,
Sure.
where his mental awareness tends to be in check, which is why yesterday it was so shocking to me that he found that brilliant line and then whiffed by not playing the weapons project. Like, that was actually... I've never seen him come close to doing something like that. And so, I guess theoretically, yes. You know, Kolento, I have to say, is the exact same way. I don't think I've ever even seen Kolento look tired.
I've never seen Kolento look stressed.
I've seen him look a little bit bored, mostly in my interviews with him, but never seen him look tired. Taking the keeper for future Tyrion.
What are you going to lose to?
Nothing.
You kill an Edwin.
If that tiger on the wall behind
could-
Viper came to life and pounced on him, maybe then.
It's just been biding and waiting for years at this point.
Now, it looks like he could fight it off, though.
I think that's because he's closer to the camera.
You don't realize how tall Viper is. That's the thing.
He's huge.
Yeah.
Not
He's
like
really tall.
Not like monstrously huge, but he's tall.
Just very tall.
Very tall. Well, Viper has his checked with the Keeper of the Grove. This should be the stopping point for Kolento.
I must safeguard the land.
The victory
Yep. Strange kickoff to this series, but I saw every single way it got there, and frankly, I just agree.
I'm impressed with what Kolento did.
His hand was atrocious.
He
after that
found a
acolyte.
2 in 13 to win the game immediately.
Yeah, like he could have taken the 1 in
With
15,
that
and
hand.
honestly, I think that's probably the one question mark I have. Like, Holy Wrath Paladin is a very strange deck. And the reason I'm going to point out about that is that you're constantly evaluating what your percentage in the game to win is. And so at a certain point, you have to look down and look at the damage of 25 being available on a percent swing. and
It would have
say,
been sick.
Sometimes I just got to do this.
It would have been sick, but I got to disagree with you. I think that his line was overall going to be much more consistent.
I'm not saying you should have gone for it. I'm saying that's the only thing that you can call into question, I think.
Sure. Fair enough.
That's it.
Fair enough.
Vipers was strong as well. Just good play on both sides with bad hands and interesting game as a result.
Viper decided to play a Ferocious Howl at some point for 6 armor, not that great, but it didn't end up leading to him getting a Nourish at like
turn 7.
Pretty much the exact moment he needed to.
Exactly.
So
payoffs everywhere.
Yeah.
When you get bad
Except
hands,
for Kolento.
when you get bad hands, make the most of it in every way you can. That's really the moral of it. We're going to a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to be jumping into game number 2 of Viper versus Kolento. So stay tuned. We got more matches after this too.
Shadows are rising again, darker than they've ever been. As evil descends from the skies, the world cries out, how will we survive? Out of the hall of explorers, and up from the dusty tombs, they grab their whips and fedoras. These legends of the past know exactly what to do. There might be magic monsters, mummies in the markets, and ancient mysticism. There should be scorching deserts, adventure and monster of narcissism. High stakes think annihilation, obliteration of civilization. Now is the time to be brave. Evil's come to enslave, but this league's gonna save. Oh, no.
My name is Tom Val, my handle is Viper. My username is just one of those boring stories where it's a 12, 13-year-old kid makes his first WoW account basically. You gotta pick a username, taken. Is this Viper taken? Oh, Viper's possible, nice, okay, whatever. It's a generic name, it's fine. And then I just stick to it. Being Grandmasters means that I'm one of the top 16 players in Europe basically, right? Which is really worth a lot for me because I always want to be the best, I always want to be competitive, I always want to do well. That's just who I am. I always try to be open-minded. I try to test whatever decks are good. January in 2016 it was, I think. I had almost 3K games in a month, just playing Aggro Shaman and Miracle. I think I've also played an unhealthy amount of J Druid and the Dragon Combo Priest after that. I just love those powerful decks, I guess. Being second at Worlds, it's such a crazy feeling and I'm not sure if I really realize it at this point. Now I'm just looking forward to Grandmasters, I'm looking forward to playing well. I want to play on the big stage, I'm really looking forward to that.
My name is Alexander Malsh, you might know me as Kolento. My username Kolento is kind of random, I just took it from the MMORPG I was playing. It was the name of one of my characters. My favorite moment in Hearthstone is probably when I won the Game House Cup. It was one of my first tournaments I won and it probably was the first LAN I won, so it felt very special. So as for Grandmasters in general, I really like to play against people I know personally and I met before. I have respect for them. I think competing will be fun. Being in Grandmasters is a big honor. It's just a proof that I'm a part of best players in Hearthstone. It's not like I need it so much, I just know it myself, but it still feels kind of nice. I'll just perform well at Grandmaster League. I'll try to keep streaming and I just want to spend the rest of my time having as much fun as I'm having doing my hobby.
Welcome back to Hearthstone Grandmasters for Europe. We are in our 5th match of the day right now for Scintillating Sunday, which means that we have a 6th bonus match that's in play. I'm Nathan, that's Admiral Zamora, joined by Edward Gallon Goodwin. You got to play later on today, by the way.
Yep, you keep reminding me about this every single time. I'm getting a little bit nervous, and usually I don't get nervous.
Well, you were nervous yesterday, too.
No, I was just tired.
You told me you were nervous.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I'm calling you out. I said it. I'm sorry, Callum. I didn't mean to expose you that way.
No, it's okay.
Viper picks up a game win in number 1 after a very strange game. Kolento had an extremely poor pan out on his Holy Wrath Paladin. I think exhibited some very strong play despite that. And gave himself the best chance. Yeah.
Maximizes odds. Didn't pan out. Sometimes the odds are just going to be unfavorable. That's what happens. This time, though, Kolento's on Reno Hunter versus Warrior. And Highlander Hunter, not Reno Hunter. Reno's a mage card.
Well, it's similar.
Ish. Yeah, they're the same effect.
Yeah.
But this matchup has been traditionally favorable for Hunter, I would say. You have a lot of tools that just chip away at the Warrior's health total. Zephyrus and Bran especially are just fantastic cards.
Just a lot of power packed into each bunch.
Precisely.
I'm curious about this hand. I like all these cards, but they're not quite working together.
They do not work well together at all. Mass Contender and Subject 9 are very much at odds with each other throughout the game.
It's weird that all of these cards could say the word secret on them and not necessarily work together.
They're literally a non-bow.
That's so weird to me.
It is interesting. Zephyrus picked up.
Yeah, 2 secrets picked up, though. He kept Subject 9.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Also a non-bow. I wonder what Viper's drinking. I think he's drinking tea.
Coffee. Winning juice.
He does look like a coffee kind of guy.
Your wish is
Trying to think if I've ever ate lunch with Viper and what he drank. I think it was coffee.
He looks like a coffee guy. Zephyrus, draw a card that's in your deck.
Powerful.
When you wish for the perfect card and it's already in your deck, whew.
My deck is just perfect.
Yeah. That's when you know you've built it right.
Why is there a Twisting Nether in my Holy Wrath Paladin deck?
Hey.
What is going on?
Sometimes it gets the job done.
Viper knows what's coming here. If you play against Reno Hunter or Highlander Hunter long enough, you start to realize the beats of what they do. And one very, very common one after playing Zephyrus on 2, which is an Animal Companion on 3.
You know, I am wondering if Wild Growth could have ever been a choice here simply because you have Subject 9.
With that pickup that we just see from Kolento, it gets more reasonable, but he didn't have that in hand at the start of his turn.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
like, what would your hand have to be, I think, to justify that? That's kind
Subject
of
9,
Oh, Unleash.
Snip, Snap.
Unleash the Beast. That would be it.
Snip Snap could also work because you just play it on 6, right?
Just a thing to fill up
and
your
then
turn
Bran.
strong on 6.
If you had like 5, 6, 7, that
Ooh.
sounds perfect.
Yeah. At least we found it. In the meantime, good old Leok. So wish for the perfect draw, not the perfect outcome.
Viper's resources are very awkward.
What
He wants like 1 extra man on every single turn.
Yeah, it is kind of weird. You know, you think about how important coin is in some matchups and how not important it is in others.
One thing I will say is that setting up for a Warpath makes a lot of sense against Kolento. I think,
You just expect him to clear this out so much.
yeah, and like it just,
What
the one thing I will say is that Kolento has a Houndmaster, and you're desperately worried about that. However, you have a Shield Block Shield Slam for that if that comes down. There's a lot of branching paths from this spot. How Viper plays this turn is going to dictate what resources he has in hand for the rest of the game.
Yeah. Kind of the like same vein for Kolento too, right? Like how Viper plays the turn kind of dictates how Kolento's going to respond.
Definitely true. I think from Viper's perspective, it matters a lot more how he operates this turn than for Kolento.
I'm pretty in favor of just peeling the damage. Like, why
Seems
fight
very
for
reasonable.
value? Like, your whole deck is based around fighting for value.
You set up a Shield Block Shield Slam next turn for the 2/4.
Yep.
Pretty good spot for beating Houndmaster, which is a common play from Kolento on a
This
turn
hand's
4.
getting juicy.
Yeah, he just got everything good.
If he picks up Unleash the Beast, he picks up Zul'jin. That's pretty much what's left in terms of the best cards.
You'd want a strong turn 6, I guess?
Yeah, Unleash the Beast.
Unleash the Beast?
Yeah.
Okay, I can see it.
And then I called for the Zul'jin afterwards, of course, because we could Unleash the Beast.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Job done.
Snip, snap.
You called for Snip Snap
Yeah,
earlier.
there we go. We called for a lot of cards.
All right, you know what? What's the best thing that can happen to me? I'm going to find $10 in the pockets of my jeans when I do my laundry tomorrow.
I'm going to find 20. You didn't just get 1 upped, you got 10 upped.
I'll take 10.
Oh, is there like a limit to it?
I don't know.
We'll find out. It'd be really funny if you find 10, I just find like
20.
that would be nice.
Yeah, it'd be really weird. Probably the toughest turn that Viper's going to face for a while. This one is not good. Like, what do you do?
What now?
You could brawl.
Can you?
You could. It's a play.
That's something to do. Maybe sets up a warpath.
The Spark Engine?
Thinking Clockwork.
You could take the Spark Engine now and then just go 1-drop brawl the following turn.
Oh, I see what you're trying to do. Oh, that's smart.
It's a play.
Your hand's pretty bad.
What now?
I haven't thought about it much more than the fact that you could do that. That's a legitimate thing.
The reason I like it is because you get to also get 2 armor this turn.
Which matters.
Yeah, I'm
Every
a much,
little bit.
I'm
Every
a
little
much
bit.
bigger fan of the lost art of warrior hero power than pretty much anybody else is.
For sure.
All you kids today are fancy in tempo and just what gets the most stats in play. I don't need your fancy college boy math. I need armor and more of it.
Specifically 2. I just Clockwork Goblin.
Yeah, I like Clockwork Goblin better though.
Okay. Again, I didn't really think about it beyond the possibility of 1-drop brawl. Makes sense because it just fights your board harder.
3/3 bigger than 2/1.
Kolento is one of those newfangled tempo kids.
Well, he's kind of one of the old tempo guys, I
The
guess.
old-fangled tempo kids.
Old fangled. That sounds like a weird hunter card. Stack them up.
Makes me happy.
Oh, separate them. Warpath's not available.
Yep.
Ah, Tice
That
taught
also-
me this.
That also makes me happy. We literally learned this lesson.
Okay. It always takes me 2 times. Tice taught me, Kolento showed me, and now I will remember forever. Warrior less than 8 mana equals snip, snap, separated.
Cool, cool. But not always. Sometimes you do keep it
Yeah,
stacked up, but it's an option.
It's good here.
Yeah. That is a good draw. Dynamatic was the best card last turn. Still pretty freaking good this turn.
It's probably the best card this turn.
He is the best card this turn.
Maybe Armagadillo?
Yeah.
I'm just looking at a deadly shot on the other side.
From Kolento's perspective, I think deviating a little bit from the brand makes sense here. Just playing a Siamat and killing the 3/4 has a lot of merit. You are still firmly in control of the game. You have a 6/6 and 2/2/3s on turn 7. Fantastic. You don't give Viper the opportunity to trade over a Snip Snap for a Brawl. And you have the Bran as follow-up for the next turn.
Yeah, I like it mostly because he's so far underneath Tomb Warden. Like, Tomb Warden is one of those cards, it's like, Siamat is so good against it. Like, your opponent feels so secure playing a Tomb Warden against, like, a small board, and then suddenly Siamat cracks that gate open, and you smash through. Like, to me, that is such a strong maneuver.
Kolento deviates even further from the Siamat line.
He's playing around Warpath. He's setting up for Warpath already.
Yeah.
He says, what, are you going to freeze back your Dynamatic and play it again?
Viper has a whole lot of options. None of them are that good. He's still... So Kolento is still protected against Warpath, right?
Yep.
Even without the Rat Trap.
Well, yeah, I mean... Viper's only on 7 mana.
Yeah. So, interesting.
Seems to be the reason you would use the Urstron.
Because you also protect the Urstron as well. Yeah.
Maybe Viper feels compelled to Warpath. In which case you have the Rat Trap.
You know what secrets Kolento has. He pretty much drew all of them from his deck, right?
He's not going to feel compelled to
So you know that there's a Rat Trap potential. It's interesting, man.
Yeah, I think if Viper had found Snake Trap there, he might have been willing to Warpath. Would clear off 5 attack from it, and that's about the best you're going to get, I'd say. So I think he found a pretty strong middle ground to this.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Eaglehorn Bow and Ziliax. So you're telling me I can deal 6 additional this turn?
Kolento has, like, 8 really fantastic options this turn.
It's a good matchup.
So
It's a good matchup, and I think he's played it pretty darn well.
you do you, Kolento.
I think he has been maximizing tools that get weaker as the game goes on and been preserving tools that get stronger.
Makes sense.
Unity, precision, perfection.
As the game goes on, the game isn't going on for that much longer.
Well, not at this pace, no. This is what I mean. Like, 2 Morden just seems like it's such a naturally good play in this spot.
Can't see Matt checks that.
And back-to-back 2 Mordens definitely feel like that they're going to be a good enough play.
It's just not.
And if you want to make a Rat Trap by Warpathing 4 times, there's nothing to attack into with the Super Collider.
I wonder.
Yeah. You wouldn't
is
even be
there?
able to.
4, 5. Yeah, the Rat would live at 1.
You wouldn't even be able to do it 3 times because the thing wouldn't be able to trade in. You deal 3 to it, it would go down to 1, you'd hit it,
yeah.
and then it would just die.
It'd be a 1 health. Just everything worked out beautifully. This is a wonderful setup.
Kolento had strong follow-up after strong follow-up.
I'm pretty sure he has done the perfect thing every turn. Now, for Viper, I'm fairly confident he's done that as well, but just not an opportunity to get something going. Like, that's the nature of a good matchup. If they play proactively and properly,
Kolento
they're just going to get got.
Kolento had powerful cards, powerful turns, and just overall played it pretty intelligently. Like, about as well as he could have, so... Kolento
like
has
lethal to
lethal.
me.
Yep, see him at Hero Power. Wind Fury to kill the 2/2 Mordens.
Yeah, if you saw Viper wince at the sight of that Tiamat, that is proper. We're going to game 3. Fewer actions.
Very deliberate. I think he gave Viper several opportunities to concede. It's like, you're really making me play this one out? Let me do the math for you. All right, you have 7 left and there's 8 in play.
You're the one who mentioned the prospect of fatigue. The more actions you got to take, the more fatigued you're gonna get.
I think it's on Kolento's mind.
Maybe it's on Viper's.
He never pressed any buttons.
Sat back.
You want to kill me, you got to do it.
Yep. Make him do it. And so now that means we're headed over to game 3. Kolento gets the job done with Highlander Hunter. He's got Paladin and Druid left to battle with. On Viper's side, still the Warrior in play.
I think Warrior is very powerful versus Paladin, but it depends on how you play it. So there's a couple ways to approach the matchup, and I don't want to say that one of them is right and one of them is wrong, but in my experience, I've felt that just trying to out-armor and outlast the Paladin is much more consistent than just trying to kill them. Pressing the button, for example, hitting the armor up button every single turn that you can manage to seems like a really good strategy against a deck that just wants to deal like 55 to you.
Yeah. So what I'm kind of looking at on paper is that I'm looking at the Druid deck side by side. I feel like Kolento can get got in this matchup because Viper has Chef Nomi. When they both burn through their deck, I think the Nomi is superior to the Feoris plan. And you would, for the most part, I think, expect to go even in the matchup. So then you look at the other side of it. Or excuse me, Viper has Shaman and Warrior. Oh, he won with Druid already.
Yes.
That's right. He beat the Paladin with
Yeah.
it. Oh my gosh, that game just was erased in my memory.
He won.
'Cause it was such a weird game.
It was
Oh.
interesting. Yeah.
Well, excuse me then.
So we have Druid Paladin versus... Oh, never mind. We have Druid versus Warrior. Which I believe is pretty Kolento favored.
It's interesting to me. I wonder how Viper's aggro shaman lines up versus Holy Wrath Paladin.
You know, I just haven't played enough of that matchup from either side to give you a good answer. I'd have to say that it's probably a decent matchup. You've got a lot of tools that they can't really answer, Spirit of the Frog, but that doesn't really matter. What we're talking about right now is Control Warrior versus Quest Druid. Important things to note. Kolento does not have a Chef Nomi in his deck. He has King Phaeorus and Cenarius. He does have...
He does not have...
He does not have an Elise. Clarification there, which is, I would say, a very huge help in the Warrior matchup.
I am... This is a question mark I had, was Kolento not having at least the Enlightened in his Druid deck. Now, something that I will say is that Kolento has tended to lean out on his Quest Druid version. And this week, it is like... I mean, I don't think you can get any more lean than this. Like, he's got 2 of Expedition, 2 of Innervate, 2 of Power of the Wild, 1 Howl, 1 Mind Control Tech.
I've seen people try and do it unsuccessfully. Firebat 1 week in America's GM brought a list with, like, Acorn Bearer and Tending Tauren.
Yeah, I'm not
That's
confident.
pretty lean.
That is...
Lean, mean, acorn eating machine. Kolento picks up another Nourish from the Worthy Expedition with a Cenarius in hand.
I think he's going to need them. The tools in Kolento's deck that are threats are much more important, I'd say, than a typical matchup.
You only have a limited amount, which means you have to get in early, you have to get in quick. If you let the game go long, you just will not have enough resources to threaten Viper's removal suite.
Yeah, and so something that I'm thinking about with that is the 2 copies of Power of the Wild that he's got. I will say that his boards, I think, tend to be more threatening as a result of that. But because you don't have the top end, is Viper free to, I think, spend more on those turns to counteract that? It's pretty interesting to me. You know, last time Kolento was in a scenario like this with this super lean Druid deck, because this isn't the first time he's done it, at the very end of the game, he was able to just barely sneak by after winning a brawl. He got in the last possible attack for lethal damage, exact lethal damage.
And that was after only 1 brawl.
No, that was it was his final card.
Oh, I'm talking from the Warrior side. Was it only 1 brawl that the Warrior played?
Don't recall that point. I recall the end of the game where he won the brawl and it had exact lethal.
Okay. Because what that could mean is, if Viper gets all of his AoEs, Kolento's going to be in some major trouble.
That's kind of where I'm alluding to. I feel like Viper is free to AoE like as soon as he gets in trouble.
Which is when Kolento plays one of his big things and has no follow-up. Or the follow-up is limited.
Yeah. Kind of where the Power of the Wilds come in, right? Like, it turns Oasis Surger into a bigger threat. It's not like an overcommitment to board.
Another thing that Viper has going for him is the fact that he is Super Collider in this matchup.
Yeah, it's a
We've
big
been
deal.
talking about that quite a bit, how it answers Oasis Surger very effectively. And while I doubt Kolento will play it next turn, I'd be surprised if he does anything but Nourish into Wrath next turn. It's going to answer it at some point. It's just another clear that isn't one of his premium AoEs like Brawl that he just picks up that still deals with what Kolento is doing. And that's kind of what you want to be doing as a control player. You want to be using resources as effectively as possible. That means if you can save your premium stuff, you're happy.
Yep.
It's the same thing as when you're playing against a control player. You are trying to force out those premium resources.
Yeah. So the question for Viper, I think, is about tempoing a Super Collider or not. If you tempo a Super Collider, that may be sitting around for a long time while you have your 2 copies of Weapons Project and a Harrison Jones in the deck.
Something to think about.
You don't want to give up Restless Mummy. That's a very important tool.
I also want to point out that by playing... One of the things about Super Collider is that it's very unlike other cards in the fact that if your opponent knows you have it,
They play very differently.
they play very differently. Sometimes, even if you could have the free development of Super Collider, you don't want to give your opponent knowledge of that.
Yeah, the information almost is important.
Yeah, it's half the battle.
Yeah, as much as Viper does not want to play this Restless Mummy, I think it's probably the wisest call for his hand. Goodness, just you can't get rid of anything. It's weird. Usually it's a warrior player. I mean, I've found there's plenty of stuff I can throw away a lot of times.
He could throw away weapons, Project. Doesn't really want to,
I
though.
don't get my 1/2 chipped away. Also, like it coupling with Harrison Jones. At some point, you're going to spend all this.
Behold,
Oh, yeah.
jewels of the sun.
And you're going to need to find more.
So now I have a question for Viper, which is, should you kill this 1/4? I'm not convinced.
Purple and I talked about this quite a bit. In some matchups, you know, specifically Warrior versus Druid, a lot of times if they just play like a double Crystal Merchant, for example,
Now.
they just leave it up.
Makes it hard.
Makes it difficult.
If I'm in
this
Viper's
spot-
spot right now, I saw my opponent Nourish. They're going into 10 cards next turn.
You probably kill it, because Cenarius probably is coming out.
I don't want to kill it.
Fair enough. Kolento has set upturns. If he found a swipe off of this Wrath, he could do something like War Druid Lodi, Wrath the 4/6, kills the 4/6, and then swipe face. But that's a 2 and 17. Also, does he really need to deal with the board this turn?
I'm pretty interested in the Lodi.
Yeah, me as well. I don't
Lodi
think you
Wrath's
need to
just
deal
clean.
with the full board, but you want to start chipping away.
You got life to work with.
Power
You want the Lodi in play.
You need to
Everything
cycle these
spells.
Wraths. You need to cycle the Wraths. Makes a lot of sense.
Look, if I'm going to coin on the Acolyte with the Wild Pyro, I'm playing the Lodi and Wrathen.
Yeah.
I think this is just... He's just playing good Hearthstone, honestly.
Engaging.
Oh,
Mental dislocation.
Oh, that would have been cool.
you wanted to steal the mummy.
Yeah. When else is the MC Tech going to do anything in this matchup?
It's not. The fact that it did anything, I'm surprised by. Super Collider can hit stealth, right?
Super Collider can hit the 3/3 into the stealth minion.
I've never experienced that.
What now?
I don't want to say anything with certainty. I believe that it will still be stealthed afterwards. At some point,
Deals damage.
At some point, it used to unstealth, but I think it may still be stealth. Again, I don't want to say anything with certainty. I'll go with I don't know. There are some weird
What
technicalities
now?
about Super Collider, though. There was a point where if you hit like anything with Enrage, or like the concept of Enrage, that actually wouldn't factor in. So like if you hit an Amani Berserker, it wouldn't deal 5 damage to the the minion, it would only deal 2.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
I'm not sure if it's still that way. I believe it is, but I also have not tested that in a few months. So again, don't want to say anything with certainty.
Viper hunting to get this Lodi exposed.
Double Starfall does full clear. Don't know how important that is, but
What to do?
something to keep in mind.
Well, I think Kolento wants to preserve spells in hand, if it's possible.
For King Phaeorus,
Yeah.
yeah, but you got 4 6s and. No, I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
like-
you need it up your hand though, so it's like it's pulling in both directions.
Exactly. Like, you want to draw cards, but to draw cards, you have to dump your hand. But to dump your hand, you have to use your spells. But to use your spells, it weakens your Phaeorus. But to weaken your Phaeorus,
And you keep going through it.
yeah, it's a vicious cycle.
Instead, just electing to Oasis Surger.
I think it's a
Makes
nice
sense.
middle ground.
Yep. It still plays cards in your hand, doesn't use the spells that are critical for King Phaeorus.
Expose the Lodi.
Gotta deal damage somehow. That's one of the problems with Kolento's list, is that if he does not find damage early, he will not be able to capitalize.
Yeah. And for Viper, I'm not sure this is so easy. Like, the Super Collider turn's pretty unclean.
You're really happy.
Yeah.
You played a Super Collider.
You got 3 mana left over.
And you're really happy.
You got 3 mana left over.
You're really happy. This Super Collider is worth like 15 mana. Okay? You're really happy.
All right.
You got to armor up, okay? The lost art. Viper's going to make use of it. Oh no, I missed 1 mana as a control warrior. That's never happened before in the history of Hearthstone. Is that how you feel, Admirable?
Touché.
There we go. Okay.
Touché, Gallon.
Let's go on to the next turn.
Next issue. That 1 out of 8 is bothering me.
Can you not brawl this turn to clear the board?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Warpath Plague is apt.
You could also just 4-path.
I really don't want to take 5 again.
You can go Warpath, Warpath. Eternium Rover, Warpath, Warpath.
Well, it only takes 1.
You can also full clear with a Super Collider. You can go Warpath, trade the 4/4 on the far left into the 5/8. Eternium Rover, Warpath,
Yeah.
Eternium Rover, Warpath, Warpath.
That's more my style.
That sounds pretty darn good. You do use this charge of Super Collider. Viper agrees.
Yeah, I think this is...
Perfect ordering.
Yep.
Perfect plays. Perfect dude.
That's as clean as it gets. Ooh, thank goodness we played that Super
He
Collider
spent
last turn.
9 mana that turn.
Much better. We gained 4 armor. Still got the 1/1 in play. Oh,
Didn't click the button, though.
magnificent. Oh, he clicked the button twice with the Eternium Rover.
That's fair.
Cheated out 4 mana.
Now, this is interesting. You can make a large board here using, I would say, pretty ugly resources overall. Double Anubisath, double Power of the Wild.
Well, I think you want the Power of the Wilds to actually connect the turn you play them. I think that's an important measure.
Fair enough. You
Like-
saw a Warpath.
One of the specific things is 2 Mordants, like exactly, where if your opponent plays 2 Mordant, you have a Waste of Surger, Power of the Wild.
Uh-huh.
Like that feels very important to me.
That sounds good.
So I think one of them maybe, but not yet.
Time waits for no one.
Mana warrior gets powerful.
Dynamatic Plague of Wrath, more often than not, is really good. I have to imagine that's what the Viper's thinking about. You get on the board, you save your brawl. It's not the best Plague of Wrath turn, but what other resources do you really want to use in this spot? You don't want to use your Super Collider shards, I don't think. That's a really good setup for later.
I'm super interested in using Plague of Wrath this turn.
I think it's the perfect turn. Everything's coming together for this Plague of Wrath Dynamatic to be good. Now, maybe there's a world where you need to play around King Phaoris into a Fluke King Phaoris. And in that instance, having a Plague of Wrath and a Brawl
Yeah, I think that's exactly what he's thinking about.
would be important. At the same time, how are you going to activate the Plague of Wrath? You use the Warpath. You don't have any more.
Yeah, didn't include a Whirlwind in your deck. That sounds ridiculous.
Jeez. Interesting. Okay, so just deal with the board. A little bit.
Oh, tension.
Kolento still has to... Well,
Wow, it's been a long time since I've seen something like this happen. I like board tension. This is one of my favorite things.
you know the song, Sound of Music. Like, these are a few of my favorite things.
Of course, everybody knows that song.
One of hers is board tension. Can you imagine that?
It's like the third line of the song.
The kids are like, what are you talking about? That doesn't come out for like decades.
You know, like when you're
Hearthstone?
playing Hearthstone and there's minions in play,
On
and
your
you don't want to
computer?
respond with all your spells, so instead you put minions in the way that are somewhat awkward for your opponent to deal with, thus creating a board state where neither player really wants to attack, but both players have to attack, and so as a result, one player uses their spells and the other player tries to capitalize on that with an advantage. Yeah, everybody knows what board tension is.
Could you repeat that, please? All right, this seemed definitely like the Power of Wild turn, or at least a single copy of it.
Well, second brawl picked up, and so now that unlocks, I think, that expenditure of one of these AoE cards.
Which one, though?
Excellent question. And furthermore, how?
Brawl seems kind of yucky. It's going to leave something up. If the 7/7 lives, you really don't have an answer to it.
Yeah, that would be yucky.
So hope it doesn't. It's pretty simple.
Sounds good to me.
Oh,
And that makes Dynomatic juicy.
I
Or do you
really
wanna
would
play
hesitate.
it?
I would hesitate to play a Dynamatic here, just because of that reason that we talked about before, which is
Click the button. Oh, it's beautiful.
yeah. But because of you need the Plague of Wrath activator, Dynamatic doesn't. If you don't see a Feoris here, you can be pretty certain that they don't have either Feoris and Floop in their hand.
Yeah.
And it's getting pretty weak. It's summoning 2 Wisps right now.
Well, there's the Floop. The Feoris is buried.
What do you even do with this Oasis Surger here? I mean, I guess you play it, you innervate out the... If you innervate out the
One
Power of the
Zeffy
Wild...
boy.
If you innervate out the Power of the Wild... Sorry to keep interrupting you. If you innervate out the Power of the Wild, you play around Super Collider. Because you have a 4/3, or 5/4, 6/6, 6/6. I mean, I guess you don't really, right? Because then the 6/6 in the middle, on the left, could hit the 5/4. It's a lot to think about.
It would be the Zephyrs that plays around it, right?
Yeah. Well,
Time waits for no one.
hesitantly, I'll say yes, because you can put it like 4/3, 5/5, 3/2, 5/5.
Yeah.
In that order.
You had the right idea.
Literally in that order.
This does play around the Super Collider in that you're flanking the big minions. So the Super Collider doesn't always connect with how you want it to, ideally.
Yes.
That was the idea that you had.
Yes. It was... This is the play that I would have done. I'm still not sure about the Zephyrs. Maybe the Zephyrs was better than the second Power of the Wild.
I don't know. I mean, depends on what you need Zephyrs for,
Tough
right?
turn.
I mean, Zephyrs can threaten a lethal position.
I don't even know what Zephyrs would offer you in that kind of spot.
Tyrion, Defender of Argus. Like,
Yeah, you could be pretty certain it's
Growl.
Tyrion. But Tyrion's just not a great card. He gets a deck with Weapons Project and Harrison Jones. So
and
who knows?
Spellbreaker. I
Spell
agree.
Brew.
I mean, I want to hold the Zephyrs because of lethal potential. And so for Viper here, things get kind of awkward when your Super Collider does not adequately check the position.
What now?
We're getting to a spot where Kolento might actually be able to force the Feoris Floop scenario. Now, bear in mind, look at his hand right now.
Yeah. That's what the Zephyrs is for, I think.
Wow. That was painful.
Yeah. But this is going to happen sometimes.
Using the Super Collider just seems too painful.
Yucky. I'm
Yucky,
worried.
but
I'm very worried. I'm extremely worried.
Kolento has swipe Zephyrs for a Fireball or a Wind Fury. Just something to keep in mind. It's not lethal yet, but it's a lot of damage.
This Omega Assembly is going to have to produce.
Ripping the Worthy Expedition for a
big thing.
Cenarius sounds nuts here.
Get the big
sounds
thing.
insane.
Get the big thing. Not the
Mark of
Mark
the
of Nature is a blessing of.
Plus Wind Fury. Wait. Do the math.
It's 18. You'll spend 7 mana to get to that point. You have 2 left over for the Zephyrus.
It's really powerful, right? Like, would it offer Wind Fury for you in that
You
spot?
don't have any mana.
What do you mean? You could just Mark of the Wild on the 6/6, play a Zephyrus.
Oh.
You'll have 4 mana left over.
See, that's the question I have, right? Is if it's not lethal, does he offer the Wind Fury? I don't know how large he has to be, honestly.
That's pretty darn large. So it doesn't offer you Wind Fury in that spot. Wow, he takes... We were
he's
talking about
tapped out.
We were talking about this earlier, where Gore Howl often seems like a choice that you can just take. It's just 7 bursts against a class that normally has weapon destruction.
Yeah, that was specifically Pheno versus Spore Control on the
But
Holy Wrath Paladin.
Even here, I think it has a lot of merit. You have what, Swipe, Coin, Gore Howl.
It's a very similar effect, but honestly, I think Kolento's recognizing that Viper's becoming exhausted on resources.
I agree with that.
He's clearly been struggling to handle boards.
I agree with that.
Oh.
Kaboombot sets you up for a 60%er to be fine. Kaboombot Brawl.
Well, you also have like Kaboombot Ziliax. Like the Death Rattle gains you 4 more.
Yeah, but there's a 10/10 in play.
Well, that's my question is like, can you do something to like prevent the spot?
Kaboombot Brawl sets you up immediately to answer 3 out of 6. But if you Brawl first and then Spellbreaker afterwards, or Spellbreaker first to give yourself a slightly higher odds. Wow.
I like this.
Just saving the Brawl because you need the Brawl for the Feoris.
Viper, I think, here is familiar with what Zephyrus would offer, and he's praying for. I mean, I don't know what. At that point.
I don't want to say that it was a total mistake, but your point that goes back several days at this point of Gore Howl just being burst damage that you can take against a weapon destruction class is, it's. You could swipe the Ziliax, innervate Gore Howl, and just have lethal. I think it was a missed opportunity by Kolento.
Well, how could you identify this line from Viper, though? Like, this was a weird departure. Double swipe! Double swipe! That was 50% on the Ferocious Howl to double swipe!
That's insane. Kolento takes it with what I would say is the leanest Druid deck that we can see in Hearthstone Grandmasters right now.
He just beat down the door.
He didn't even need the Feoris.
Seriously, like, it is so important to talk about the value of aggression, what it presents. I think that there's opportunities within aggressive principles with matchups like this, where you can land on spots that the aggression is just applying so much pressure that it matters. And here, I think, was one of those spots.
I want to pinpoint the turn where instead of saving the Floop for later, he just Flooped for Oasis Surgers for 2 5/6s. I thought that was like unintuitive in the sense that you have a normal game plan as Druid versus Warrior where you want to play a Feoris, Floop the Feoris, or a Cenarius, and anything besides that is like, oh, this is not going right. Kolento says, no, it's fine. I know exactly how to partition my resources to win this game as quickly as possible. I do not need this Floop for a Feoris. In fact, all I need to do right now is just tempo him out of the game.
Just keep battling.
Yeah.
Eventually, you chip away. Just keep on attacking. It's turn after turn. It's just relentless. And Nourish provides a lot of that. But honestly, when you look at how important something like Power of the Wild was in that matchup, I think it speaks volumes of the power that aggression can yield in matchups like that. Kolento is ready for an interview. Kolento, can you hear us?
I can. Hello.
Hello, and congratulations on this win. Some pretty strange stuff feels like it came up in this series, at least from our perspective. Walk me through your perspective, some of the more interesting points of the match and some spots that looked pretty tricky from our spot.
So you might be confused about Consecration?
No, I think the Consecrations looked spot on. I'm just, something like the coin on the Wild Pyro turn with the Acolyte in play, that looked really interesting to me. And also in the Druid game, just having to continuously apply pressure and kind of forego the idea of the King Ferris in that game.
Yeah, so you got coin there. Acolyte is getting down to 2. 3-2 gets down to 3-1, right? I didn't have an answer to 1-4 if he goes for it, if he chooses to do so, but it was kind of awkward for him to do it if he could already just hero power the 3-1. It depends on his hand whether he goes for it or not there. It's sometimes good, sometimes not, and I was drawing 2 cards at least. I was expecting to get like hammer or true silver. Also, if I pick up Crystalgia there, it was just almost game over because so much draw. Yeah, but in that game in particular, I mean, you just have to play stuff if you don't have a draw, because otherwise you get the draw and don't have hand size because you have all this heavy stuff in your hand.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, in fact, the Consecrations actually set you up for like a 2-13, I believe, to have exact lethal on one of the turns. So lots of foresight. I thought it was fantastic. My question for you is mainly the Hunter game, I want to say. You took a line where you played a Ursatron plus Double Secret instead of a Siamat, and I just want your thoughts on that turn specifically.
So I want my right trap in play. It was the best time for it. Freezing the 3-4 was pretty good. It doesn't get better than this. I didn't want to trade, and 3-4 was threatening Zilex, so I had to get rid of it somehow. I don't care about giving him 7 mana. Dynamatic is too slow anyways. Which is basic 2-mana deal for damage. I was pretty good, like I didn't want to overextend more because I already had enough, like Osatron and 2-3s. That's 7 power. The best you can do about it is Warpath, and it was blocked by Rat Trap. And and later I also didn't need to play Bren. Like Bren is a very powerful card to play after AoE happens, right? Because if you have board, they just brawl, and if the board is empty, they have to deal with a lot of stuff.
Makes a lot of sense.
And then lastly, I want to ask you about the Druid list in particular. Yours seems much more aggressive and a lot more lean than other people. How did you acquire this list, and what really inspired it for you to bring it?
I mean, mostly just stats. People just don't play Control Warrior as much, and yes, Nomi might be. I mean, Nomi might be like, yeah, the way to go, but like, if you need to beat Warriors in such a fashion, you have to have Nomi, Elise, and you still need to draw like a Nourish to cycle faster. You still fall victim of, like, there will be situations where you draw Nourish, but you don't draw a second one. And you see him with Nomi, when Warrior just so little HP. You could just end the game with Zephyr, and instead you have the 6/6 for 7 mana, and they still have all the AoE they need.
Yep,
it's very easy to bait this if you don't run Nomi, and if you run it, it's just like they can play it, but they can just fight for the board so well with all other cards, and because you can play the Floop, they don't need to play AoE. It just gives them more time, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. That's pretty much what you demonstrated in that one. It's 2 close calls that I've seen you now with the lean Druid list, but you've picked them up both versus Warrior. Kolento, congratulations on your win. You move up to 8-4, and you're second in the division. You're looking strong so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing your matches next week.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Just beat them up.
Just beat them up. Who needs this fatigue game plan of Nomi's?
I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me. Like, almost any single time that you break down metagames in card games, at least that I've found, there's pretty much raw aggression towards the end of it. It'll come at inflection points in the game. A lot of times I see them slow down to more mid-range decks where they start early on and then they progress into the end the game stage pretty quickly from there. But for the most part, aggression is where those metagames tend to lean towards. It's just getting more damage done quicker than you did before.
Yeah, there's something to be said about just having a proactive game plan in these kinds of matchups where if you're the one dictating the pace of the match, you can really control a lot of things. You can force your opponent into awkward spots.
Yeah.
The reactive player doesn't really have that great of an opportunity.
Plus, he mentioned the less popularity of Control Warriors, I believe how he phrased it. So that's something interesting to think about too. You just make adjustments if your opponents are moving away from matchups that you normally need those big tech cards for.